Thank you for joining our ACRL 2021 virtual conference webcast, Enhancing Information Literacy Instruction through Student-Led Content Creation. I'm Jeff Mortimer, and I'm joined by my colleague Ruth Baker from Georgia Southern University, Amanda Skull from Dartmouth College, and Antonio Osuna Garcia and Courtney Hoffner from UCLA. Student-led content creation is an emerging topic of interest to instructional librarians looking to diversify instructional approaches in traditional, hybrid, and online instruction. During this webinar, my colleagues and I will present a series of case studies highlighting how student-led content creation enhances information literacy instruction. In doing so, we will describe our use of assignments, instructional methods, and technology to promote student engagement, including how student-led content creation contributes to knowledge practices and dispositions central to the ACRL's framework for information literacy for higher education. In addition, we will address practical, pedagogical, and technical considerations for supporting student-led content creation, including implementation, access control, protection of student privacy, and copyright and reuse. Afterward, during the Q&A period, we invite everyone attending today to share their experiences supporting student-led content creation or to raise questions about how to get started. In short, our goals for today's webcast are to define student-led content creation and describe its application in information literacy instruction, to consider best practices for designing and modifying course content in information literacy instruction to include student-led content creation, and finally, to encourage you to reflect on and integrate student-led content creation into your own instructional practice. So, to get started, Ruth Baker and I will share how we opened the LibGuides platform to host a series of student projects and portfolios. Thanks again for joining us today.
My name is Ruth Baker, and I'm a reference and instruction librarian in the Research Services Department of Zach S. Henderson Library at Georgia Southern University. I'd like to share with you today some work we've been doing at Georgia Southern to employ LibGuides as a platform for student content creators. Expanding on a previous pilot of LibGuides as an instructional platform, librarians at Georgia Southern University have been conducting a blended or hybrid learning experiment since 2017. We opened up LibGuides CMS to students and faculty from two blended or hybrid undergraduate courses, a first-year writing My Story or English 1102 course, and Introduction to Digital Humanities 3431. The LibGuides platform hosted collaboratively developed course content and student-created work as a supplement to the course management system Desire to Learn. Activities were grounded in meta-literacy concepts in the ACRL framework for information literacy for higher education, with librarians providing instruction and technical support to student content creators in collaboration with their instructor. These courses provided the opportunity for students to engage in active learning and meta-literacy experiences. Students were invited to create group and individual assignments using LibGuides CMS as a writing and research platform. Activities were grounded in the framework for information literacy for higher education, and the role for librarians in the courses was as guides on the side, providing ongoing instruction, including information literacy and technical support. Our first case study centers around a first-year writing course, English 1102, given the name My Story by the course instructor. Assignments in the course were designed as an alternative to standard research paper assignments. Students were asked to create a series of reflexive visual essays focused on 4 areas of their lives: community, family, career or major, and entertainment. Text based on student research and their personal reflections supplemented images in the visual essays. Thus, the My Story experience constituted transformational learning by changes in the students' understanding of self through active exploration of these different aspects of their lives. Lesson plans and activities supporting these investigations were grounded in the threshold concepts, knowledge practices, and dispositions in the framework. At some point, we touched on each of the frames in the courses, but the frame's authority is constructed and contextual, and information creation is a process were especially prominent. I'll talk more about how students engage with the frames, but first, Here are some examples of the interface to show what the learning environment looked like. Here's a view of the blended learning environment in LibGuide CMS, in which students created individual visual essays as guided by their instructor. Essays were created, edited, and completed on course LibGuides pages, one assigned to each student. There were also some privacy concerns expressed by students with the customary public nature of LibGuides. However, we were able to configure LibGuide CMS so that the course LibGuide was in a private group requiring authentication to log in. We were unable to password protect individual pages, but that wasn't desired by the instructor since his goal was to foster an environment for students to share their essays and learn from one another. We were able to demonstrate to the instructor and students that their pages could not be accessed with a Google search. Note also that student names were redacted for this presentation in keeping with the privacy concerns and requirements of the IRB protocol. Writing instruction in the course was supplemented by face-to-face library instruction sessions covering one, a LibGuides orientation and training session, and two library research-related sessions. The library orientation to LibGuide CMS included an overview of LibGuides and presentation of a quick start guide. We provided hands-on practice for inserting and editing text and images and supplemented that training with tutorials in the course guide as the course developed. This screenshot shows more detail on photo editing and layout options. In subsequent sessions, students were provided with a face-to-face tutorial on using PowerPoint to create more complex image or text layouts. This tutorial was added to the guide in the spring 2018 iteration of the course as a result of interactions with students and their instructor. Finally, here's an example of a completed visual essay. By using LibGuide CMS, students were able to take the lead as content creators in their course, actively engage with course material from the beginning of the course, and gain experience manipulating text and images with a shorter learning curve than other platforms. Here are some takeaways from this first case study. We selected LibGuides as a platform after discussing with the instructor one of his pedagogical goals to foster a collaborative environment where students could view each other's work and learn from one another. Of course, since this was something new, we didn't know at first if the experiment would be successful. However, LibGuides have proven well suited to providing an environment where the desired kind of cross-fertilization could take place and in ways not easily achieved in the course management system. Students were active, engaged learners and digital content creators in the blended learning environments where they made substantive contributions to their online communities of learning. The platform required minimal training, resulting in reduced cognitive load and stress on working memory. Scaffolding assignments further supported skills development. In particular, in constructing their essays, students engage with the frames by acknowledging that they are developing their own authoritative voice in an area, seeking credible and reliable information, and constructing a body of knowledge, including self-knowledge and expertise through their visual reflexive essays. This addressed the frame, authority is constructed and contextual. Recognizing that information creation is time-consuming and iterative, scaffolding essays through the course allowed students to build on and transfer their previous experiences to new information sources and improve their research and analytical skills with each iteration. This addressed the frame, information creation as a process. And incorporating both reflexive and analytical writing based on original research supported by library instruction addressed the frame, searching as strategic exploration. We have not formally embedded assessment of improved information literacy skills by students other than through grading of student writing assignments. However, with each iteration of the essay, student writing and research improved. As we scaffolded learning activities throughout the semester, students gained experience with the platform and newly acquired information literacy skills. We are encouraged by the demonstration of deeper learning and improved student engagement. I'm continuing to work with the course instructor who likes using LibGuides as a platform for student writing. With each semester since 2017, we found ways to improve the course and provide enhanced layout and formatting tips with guidance on effective online search strategies. I'm continuing to support and be embedded in his courses in LibGuides in the current spring 2021 semester. Thank you. I look forward to your questions or comments in the Q&A portion of this session. And now I'll turn the presentation over to my colleague, Jeff Mortimer, to present our second case study.
Again, my name is Jeff Mortimer, and I'm Discovery Services Librarian in the Collection Services Department at Georgia Southern University. Our second case study centers on a collaboration begun in spring 2017 with Georgia Southern's undergraduate Digital Humanities program. Housed in the Department of History, this program introduces students to digital skills in the humanities, liberal arts, and social sciences. As part of the program, students develop a public-facing online portfolio that includes anything from simple audio and video files to dynamic digital mapping, data visualization, and gaming projects. The first course in the minor is Introduction to Digital Humanities, or Humanities 3431, during which students begin to develop these portfolios. The impetus to open the LibGuides platform to the Digital Humanities program was really threefold. First, the program needed a cost-effective, scalable online content management system on which students with a wide range of technical skills could develop projects and make them publicly available up to and following graduation. Second, the program needed a platform that could be adapted to online-only instruction when needed, including hosting the program's instructional toolkit. Third, the program needed a platform to support faculty-led projects in addition to student portfolios. By supporting profiles, blogs, content curation, and HTML and scripting projects, LibGuides was well adapted to meet these needs. Prior to the spring 2017 semester, we created a series of groups in LibGuides to host all program-level pages, faculty projects, and student portfolios, all of which are accessible from the program's public-facing homepage. For each new student cohort, we further create a cohort group to hold group projects in students' individual portfolios. When doing so, we make the program faculty the owners of the portfolios to ensure that they have access to and can maintain control of portfolio content over time. During their first semester, students develop several group and individual projects, including exploratory and self-reflective blog posts, in-text analytic, data mapping, data visualization, 3D modeling, gaming, and digital storytelling projects. As they develop their portfolios, students gain experience with HTML and CSS coding and with embedding widgets and external content into the platform. Further, they're encouraged to explore the platform's appearance and layout customizations. In this way, students complete a series of metacognitive tasks exploring self-representation and representation of digital content to external audiences. Moreover, as they continue work on their portfolios throughout the minor, they continue to develop these skills. Like the My Story collaboration, librarians serve primarily as guides on the side, providing limited instruction and instead focusing on ongoing support as students develop the portfolios. This approach allows students to take the lead as content creators, inviting them to develop and strengthen metacognitive and metaliteracy skills necessary for effective self-representation and representation of digital content. In contrast to the My Story collaboration, the focus of our collaboration with the Digital Humanities program has been to address programmatic rather than specific curricular needs. As such, we've not been involved in the same level of curricular co-development. However, by opening up LibGuides and encouraging students' content creation practices, we are actively supporting their engagement in knowledge practices relevant to each of the framework's 6 frames, especially authority as constructed and contextual, information creation as a process, and information has value. Again, as Ruth discussed, apart from pedagogical considerations, LibGuides has also proven effective for addressing technical requirements related to hosting communities of learning and student-led content creation. For instance, with the My Story collaboration, We have addressed privacy concerns by creating password-protected pages visible only to course participants and to the faculty and librarians embedded in the course. By contrast, students in Humanities 3431 are required to develop public-facing online portfolios, meaning that privacy is not so much an issue. Similarly, both collaborations require that students have editorial rights only to certain guides. LibGuides supports this flexibility while preserving faculty control of student-created content and while protecting the library's own guides and assets. Moreover, the ability for students to create digital content and interact with one another online as a community of learners was an objective of both collaborations, but this was not feasible using the university's Desire to Learn learning management system. LibGuides affords a convenient way to support these interactions with minimal training. Based on our experience, we feel that engaging students in this kind of digital content creation supports richer, active learning experiences, putting students on a road to develop general dispositions of lifelong learning, critical thinking, and inquiry. As such, LibGuides provides a convenient, flexible, and scalable alternative to traditional LMS implementations and supports moving beyond the limitations of one-shot instruction. Thank you. I also look forward to your questions and comments during the Q&A.
My name is Amanda Scull, and I am the head of Education and Information Services for the Dartmouth College Biomedical Libraries. I'm going to be sharing some of my experiences with student content creation over the past few years. When the ACRL framework came out, I was very interested in information creation as a process because I see it as the frame that allows us and our students to exhibit the most creativity. When they're engaged in creating something, students feel that they have agency over their experience. They get to plan, design, create, share what they've made. They aren't just writing another research paper. They're engaged in doing something outside of their, quote, ordinary experience, which can also appeal to students who learn in different ways. I've also been a proponent of the possibilities for students to create portfolio pieces, work that they can showcase and build upon for internships or job interviews, and I will talk more about that. And finally, I found that these types of projects help students see the connections between what they're learning and their real lives more than any research paper I've had them write. Some of my colleagues have talked about LibGuide creation, so I will just note briefly that having students create LibGuides was my first foray into this area. When I worked at the SIT Graduate Institute, students there were conducting their own research through interviews and surveys, and creating a LibGuide gave them a space to present their research findings within a broader context, utilizing not just text research, but also videos and images. Many students used these LibGuides as portfolio pieces, so they used them to share their work more broadly than just within the institution during internship and job interviews and among peers who were already out in the field. But I want to jump forward to my work at Keene State College, where I was a faculty librarian and where the librarians delivered a minor in information studies. There were 5 required courses for the minor, and one of them that I taught was History of Recorded Information. I really got to flex some creativity here, and I will note that I recognize it's an anomalous situation to be a librarian and the professor with sole control over the coursework. But I do have some suggestions for how these projects can be adapted into smaller scale, one-shot style projects. Students in this course created a few different things. First, they were paired with an older member of the community and they conducted an oral history interview, turning in an audio clip and a partial transcript. They then reflected on the oral history interview as a means of creating and recording information, what implications there were for reliability and authority, and what their role as the interviewer was. The students loved this project. Some of them even kept in touch with the community members who they interviewed afterward. And it created space for us to talk about everyday information, like people's stories, and what role that plays in the information and scholarly environment. As I wrote in my CNRL article on these projects, A few suggestions for adapting this might be to have students conduct shorter interviews with each other or a family member or friend, and then complement that with some additional research sources. The reflection on the process is also really key here. My favorite project from this course was our print serials, where the students chose any topic they wanted and produced 3 separate print serials due a couple weeks apart in the style of a Charles Dickens serialization. I was so impressed with these projects. Some students really dove into research on current topics of interest, like this one on the opioid epidemic, and it taught them how to present their research in a really succinct and impactful way. They had limited space to make their point, but they also could use graphics and other tools. This one on the Mayan glyphs was actually created by a student who was a biology major. He was taking the course for a general education requirement, but he was so excited to get to do something creative. He got really into the research, and he actually drew all of the illustrations for the serials himself. This could easily be adapted to a shorter assignment for creating a brochure or a handout, something like that. And it pairs more, quote, traditional research techniques with more creative presentation techniques. Finally, in this course, I had students create websites, which I have to admit I have done a few times, and it's still not my favorite project. A colleague once told me that she didn't like to have students create websites because there was already so much stuff out on the internet, and she didn't like to contribute to it by having students create something and then just leave it out there. And that's kind of stuck with me. I do think it's an important way for students to understand information presentation in the technological environment, but I think that creating something that's internally managed, like a LibGuide or a Canvas module, might be a better way to go about this. That said, I like the idea of offering it as an option for students who might want to maintain the website as a portfolio piece or add additional work to it. Another class I taught in the Information Studies minor was Information Environment. This was sort of the intro class, and we did some fun things in this class as well. We utilized the college archives as an information source and had students investigate how one aspect of life at the college had changed over time. We didn't do this at the time, but in hindsight, I think we could have done more with this, like collaborated with the student newspaper to run these as a series or do a series of posts on the library's website. And then we did another interview assignment in this course because, again, I find these to be a really great way for students to connect their learning and their research to the bigger picture of their real lives. Since I left Keene State College full-time, I have still been teaching first-year writing online, and I've done a few things in that class to encourage student-led content creation, though not nearly as much. First-year writing is a little bit more prescriptive. I've utilized an assignment menu, which helped to provide students with some agency in what they create for the course. So they could choose the assignments they wanted to do as long as they added up to a point total of 170. This gave the students the chance to assess what would be beneficial for them to have more practice on and to participate in the information creation decision process. I wasn't just telling them what they had to create. I've also utilized alternate mediums for having students present information. For example, I have an assignment where students receive a secondary source, a news article, that reports on a primary source, a research study, and they have to track down the primary source, the original research study. I have students create a video walking me through how they did it. I found that students get much more detailed and are more willing to work through their mistakes in this format than through writing. I've also looked to give students the opportunity to create different types of research output, like using video or audio. Again, this is harder in first-year writing since the writing is key, but in assignments where the research and the information is the focus, it can pull students out of a rut and let them create something in a different way. So this brings me to the present, where I work with medical students at the Geisel School of Medicine at Dartmouth College. And I have to say that this work is a lot easier here. Students have a drive to engage in research and publish really early on in their med school careers. And I work with them a lot on how to do that. But recently I've been working on our medical humanities offerings, which is an area where I see a lot of opportunity for creating space for medical students in a very strict science-based curriculum to create content and engage in learning in different ways. I'm currently developing a medical humanities elective for second-year students that will be based in the creation of a research project. And some of the suggestions I have for them are to create a digital exhibit using archival materials from our Special Collections Library and the National Library of Medicine, or to design a patient program based in the humanities, like art, writing, literature, and create materials for it. I see a lot of possibilities here, and this work is just getting underway. So that was a lot. Here are a few of my takeaways. One is, don't be afraid to experiment and to tweak. I just made all this up as I went along, and some things went brilliantly, and others I wasn't so thrilled about. I'm always really upfront with students when I'm trying something new, because it signals to them that we are all on equal footing in this project, none of us know how it's going to go, and that I'm open to their feedback on what they learned and how the project might be improved. Second, student-led content creation creates a really accessible creative space for students to showcase what they can do in non-traditional ways, which may suit students for whom writing research papers over and over isn't their strongest skill. And when they're given a little bit more free rein, you find that many of them get so much more engaged than when you're trying to bring them along through something like a database search activity. Seek opportunities. Find just one space where you can try something, one faculty member or one assignment where there's room to do something a little different. You have to start somewhere. You don't have to dive in all at once. And I will note that this might mean starting outside of the classroom. Do you have student workers in the library who are really engaged and who might be interested in doing a project as part of their work that would also help them learn and build their portfolio? Could you offer an internship opportunity to create digital content from the archives? And finally, be sure to leave or make space for reflection. For some students, these types of projects might be a very novel way of learning, and reflection is where they will really draw those connections to their experience, their previous research, and see how this work connects to their own bigger picture. Help them research, let them create, and give them space to reflect. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to more discussion at the end of the presentation.
Hello, my name is Courtney Hoffner, a librarian at UCLA, and I'm here with my colleague, fellow UCLA librarian Antonia Osuna Garcia, to present our case study, LibGuides Groups in Practice, Building a Partnership Between an Academic Library and an Information Studies School. In our project, we worked with the UCLA Information School to provide a unique opportunity to teach Masters in Library and Information Studies, or MLIS, students how to use LibGuides to create their own content.
The UCLA iSchool curriculum is primarily built upon theory-based courses requiring students to seek hands-on skill building outside of the classroom via internships or job opportunities. This partnership project with the iSchool instead allowed the library to bring these opportunities into the classroom. In spring 2019, a professor at the UCLA iSchool and an instructional support staff member contacted Courtney and I of the UCLA Library's Research Guides management team about a potential partnership with the library. The professor's proposed idea was to have students in her performing arts librarianship class create subject or topic LibGuides as their final class project. As the iSchool does not have an individual subscription to LibGuides, they would have to gain access through the library's account overseen by the Research Guides management team. The library had never been contacted by the iSchool for such a partnership before, and this provided a great opportunity for students to gain hands-on, practical skills, something that wasn't necessarily being offered through the iSchool.
Granting the MLIS students access to our existing library LibGuides presented a lot of problems. Access would have to be granted to a large number of students, which would take some coordination and control. Our biggest dilemma was to think of a way to keep these iSchool guides separate from the library LibGuides. This was challenging, as the guides needed to be published as public so that their professor and classmates could view them. And any public guide can also be seen by the campus community. To solve these problems, we used LibGuides Groups functionality. The features of LibGuides Groups allowed us to set up an entire customized instance of LibGuides just for the class, with its own look and feel, customization, and access. The LibGuides group functionality works within a LibGuides CMS subscription. Our library had never had a case for using LibGuides groups until this project, so it was new for us to explore these features. LibGuides groups allows for customization among unique user groups, allowing us to create groups of guides with their own set of behaviors, including customizing the look and feel, displaying unique banners and footers, setting specific access control to the group, specifying granular user permissions, and even creating a unique LibGuides homepage for that particular group. The Performing Arts Librarianship homepage displayed a view of all the student-created guides, plus our welcome guide, which detailed policies, procedures, and training resources. In addition, we provided links for training appointments and workshops, and our assessment survey.
Once the technical aspect of the guides were set up, the next important piece of this project was to provide training to the students in how to use the LibGuides CMS. We set up a training plan that included providing and guiding students towards the most useful SpringShare trainings online, one-on-one training assistance via appointments with Courtney and myself, and scheduled open format workshops, or JAMs, for students to attend where they could work on their guides together, have time to ask questions, and get additional assistance. Our goal was to provide a variety of avenues for learning that would meet the needs of the students and their different learning styles. These trainings reinforced the necessity of teaching these skills to IS students, as many of them were unfamiliar with even basic web and content management skills. In addition to building relevant technical skills, learning how to utilize tools such as LibGuides also teaches students how to present information in different ways depending on the source and the audience.
At the end of the quarter, the students presented their LibGuides to their class. Topics ranged from puppet theater to hip-hop to modern jazz innovators. Many of the students used the library's best practices, standardized templates, and database assets, along with their own designs. They also used many of the advanced functions of LibGuides featured in our trainings, such as tabbed boxes, media widgets, book covers, images, and button navigation. Feedback received from the professor, staff member, and students about this partnership was overwhelmingly positive. Almost every student we worked with remarked on how learning LibGuides was one of the most useful skills they had received so far in their program, and how they wished more classes would require similar projects. The professor mentioned to us after the course was over that she was very pleased with the guides the students created and the help we provided them. Another result of this partnership is that some UCLA subject librarians were so impressed with the content that they are considering incorporating the student-created LibGuides or aspects of them into our library's guides. This unintended result showed how such a partnership could also benefit the library.
This partnership has been fruitful in many ways. Information studies students learned practical skills to increase their job prospects and learned how to provide useful creative content for users. UCLA librarians learned new ways to use their existing tools. In addition to these successes, we hope this partnership continues to grow and thrive to benefit student skills and foster library and campus partnerships.
According to the NMC Horizon Report 2017 Higher Education Edition, some of the most significant technology trends to arise in higher education in the past decade include students as creators, blended and collaborative learning, and improving digital literacy. As we hope each of our case studies show, engaging students as online content creators aligns well with these trends, encouraging development of knowledge practices and dispositions central to the framework. Additionally, we hope to have put on display the variety of learners and learning environments to which these techniques can be adapted, from first-year undergraduates and graduate students into traditional, blended, and online instruction. As this session was originally intended to be a panel discussion, we are leaving extra time today for questions and answers. Given the variety of potential applications and approaches, we know you all have stories to tell, advice to give, and ideas to explore. Thanks again for listening and participating today, and we look forward to your comments and questions.